Hi there, it's me, Kate, her extreme achiever internationally. I'm linguist, founder from Lingua and Lingua Plus. And welcome to this channel. Today we will talk about silence. Silence across languages and cultures. Silence can be absence of words, right? But also silence can be a language in itself. And if we look across cultures, we may notice that silence may have different ways of interpretation, right? So it could be a sign of respect, it could be awkward, right? Uncomfortable. Um, but no matter where we're coming from, right? We know that there are certain moments when words just fall apart, right? And I think it's important to have a look at this, linguistics and mechanisms, of silence. There's unspoken rules that vary across cultures, what to do, about them, and how to learn to listen to silence, right? And also what to do about AI, because AI obviously struggles with our silence. All right, so if we think with you about um, silence across cultures, not all silences are created equal. So in Japan, for instance, hello Japan, silence is often seen as a sign of thoughtfulness or respect, right? So pause in conversation gives us, space to reflect, to think. Good. But speaking too quickly or too much, maybe seen as impulsive or even rude. Well, tell that to Argentinians. I think, we put a Japanese and Argentinian person in one room, we would find some, difficulties to say at least. So Argentina probably would be, the most extreme case. However, still, if we look at Western cultures, right? Um, Parts of Europe, US, silence will be uncomfortable. And Argentina will be unbearable. But yeah, then the European US, it will be uncomfortable, right? Um, and there are often representatives as cultures would be Russian silence, like every pause, just trying, to say something else because for them, a pause or silence would be like, signal of lack of confidence or even connection, right? Um, but in some European countries, especially here in Scandinavian countries, like Finland, right? Silence would be absolutely normal. Lack of speech doesn't mean something wrong, just, it means everything what needed to be said is said and nothing needs to be added, which is also, very nice. So if we interpret silence from a cultural lens, we can see that silence could be treated as void that must be filled right now, or also it's a space that must be owned. But if we go with you even deeper and we think about certain contexts, we will notice that, for instance, in grief, silence can be considered sacred, right? So it's a space that we hold for others without trying to fix anything, right? In love, silence can be treated as intimacy, a gaze, touch, um, perhaps, shared moment, right? A comfort, or presence of the significant other. Nice. But then in protest, it could be defiant, right? It could be like a quiet march, like a refusal to speak, refusal to kneel to power. So depending, who is speaking to, through which cultural lens we're looking, through like silence, it can become a message itself. Like in our messaging culture, a lack of a reply can be also a reply, right? So it can communicate vulnerability, reverence, resistance, so many different things, right? So silence says it best. But then when we start looking at technology, especially right now, AI, chatbots, voice or conversations with AI, we notice one thing. AI doesn't know what to do with silence. Have you ever tried to talk with your AI? Um, Actually switch into voice notes, and whenever you would stop, maybe to take a pause or take a breath, AI would interrupt you. Hello, because in AI world and technological world, language is treated as data. Words, tones, frequency, yeah, but silence is not there. So what happens when you're in chatbot? If you are silent, maybe you're thinking, right? Maybe it takes you too long to write. Suddenly there could be an error, yeah, like exit message. So user is inactive. But then as well in machine learning models, right? Silence is still not properly coded. There's no meaning. It's just a gap. For us, for humans, silence may mean, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I'm processing. Um, or even if I'm with someone, we had a conversation, suddenly there's silence, I may say, I trust you now enough to be quiet. We can just sit, just no words are required. So, what happens, right, when we are uh, building human-like AI? We need to teach these machines that silence has its own meaning, has its weight, right? Intention, nuance. And then perhaps communication with AI will become less and less mechanical, right? And then we'll be able to listen not only to AI, but actually to each other. Because if we start listening to each other and also listening to silence itself, right? What kind of message silence is carrying, then we will learn actually to listen, to understand instead of listening to respond. Because typically, a lot of people, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people are trained to listen to respond. Like maybe you've noticed with a friend, you're sharing something and your friend is like, yeah, 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 but actually waiting for you to finish and to start, yeah, talking about their own thing, right? So we need to retrain ourselves as well. We need to learn to become comfortable with silence, listen to the silence, to its message, and then work more on mindfulness. I've had already a video about our thoughts, whether our thoughts have a language, need a language, whether it's supposed to be a native language, other languages. And I've talked a little bit, yeah, about mindfulness, and also just, yeah, stillness and what's happening in our creative minds when there are no words. Here the same. Oh, if we start practicing mindfulness, suddenly we start training our attention. And certainly in multilingual environments, whether you're bilingual, multilingual, we may notice the shift about silence. Let's say we're speaking in English, we may see what silence carries in this particular context, and then maybe we switch to Spanish, and perhaps we noted that there was almost no silence because of, say, cultural perception of silence. And we can start comparing that and also training our nervous system to be comfortable with all types of silences, right? So eventually, silence isn't part, say, of this absence or gap, yeah, of language. Silence is language itself, right? And we can show with silence our vulnerability, anger, closeness, resistance, protest, love, and there create different meanings across cultures with that. Therefore, I want you to pause and just listen to your silence. And then, if you speak multiple languages, ask yourself how you feel in silence across all these languages and cultures, and how your friends and colleagues in those languages and cultures interpret your silence, and see what comes up. Well, that's it. I'm Katrine Fewer, linguist, founder from Lingua and Lingua Plus. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in new videos. Bye.